Hello and welcome to That Squirrel Speaks. I should probably fix my hair, but it's late in the morning and I got things to do. Hey, how are you? I was still going to edit that out, but I don't think I will. Anyway, I am Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. I do need a time-telling device. Sorry about that, kids. I do need a time-telling device because I'm actually, this podcast may get recorded in 2 parts, so if you notice some funkiness with the lighting, that's probably why. I have to go get my bifocals today. I actually have to go pick out my bifocals today. Get my eyes checked. Still gotta keep an eye on the clock. Okay. Oh my goodness, how are you? I'm doing good. Everything is super crazy. Like, not really super crazy. Like, that's totally hyperbole. 100% admit that one. We just had like 2 weeks, like really 2 weeks of just like sudden preteenness. Out of the, well, it wasn't completely out of the blue, but pretty much, I feel like it's been out of the blue. So this is a podcast about knitting and spinning. I'll get there in a minute. In the meantime, shenanigans. There really haven't been any formal shenanigans. We had, Tova needed, I thought for sure, I am like usually the uber prepared mom. Like, I usually have the new winter coat like in August because I'm just crazy. This year, for some reason, I mean, I really should like actually congratulate myself because I feel like my preparedness issues, like my need to feel prepared all the time, is like a weird consumeristic behavior that I am trying to get rid of. So like, actually, like, go me for not being completely insanely over prepared. Go me for just relaxing for a second about that. But what happened is, because of that, I for some reason totally thought Tova's coat from last year was going to fit her this year. I felt sure that she had tried the thing on. Apparently not. I think it secretly fit. I'm just going to put that out there. She tried it on and was like, oh, it's too small. I think she did like it because it looked like a kid's coat still. I mean, it's purple. So I think this was a slight exaggeration. It's so small. I can't even do this because this is what I do all the time in my winter coat. Meh. Anyway, I of course realized this like 2 days before we should have like 30-degree weather because it had been like 50, 60, 70. It's been ridiculous. And then suddenly, 30. So we had to go get her a coat, but I was like, now she's actually like an adult human size and not a kid size. So I was like, I literally don't even know where to go to get a coat because as a fat lady, are you a fat lady? I've been a fat lady for my whole like life, like really. Like I've had to shop at Lane Bryant since I can remember shopping. Like I know that in 5th grade, I feel like I remember that my grandmother bought me a pair of Bugle Brothers jeans from TJ Maxx that were a size 12. But after that, all Lane Bryant. So like one of the actual bonuses of being a fat lady, if you're not into shopping, is that you have like 2 options. Like there are some department stores that have a plus size section, so like a Macy's or like those kind of big department stores. And you have Lane Bryant. Now they have Torrid, which they didn't even have in my youth, and now I'm too old for that nonsense. So like when my daughter needs a new coat, I'm like, wait, what? There are like 9,000 stores you can buy clothing at. I don't know what. So we went shopping and it was crazy. We went to like 5 different stores to try to find her a coat. This is what the future of having a teenager is like. She needs to get some friends because I can't do it. I had not even been in our mall for like, I think like 3 years maybe. That could be a lie, but if it's a lie, it's not far from the truth. I'm just saying. So anyway, so like there was that. There was like that whole weird thing about like this coat's too small, but I'm secretly thinking it could have lasted, maybe not the full year, but you know, for a minute. And then there's been these other like weird preteeny things, which I'm just like, wait, what? Like I thought I had a robot child who was impervious to emotions. Apparently not. So I'm kind of like, where'd that come from? What's that? What? Anyway, it's been kind of a strange transition. Well, I mean, like the transition's over. The transition will continue, I'm sure, for the next 8 years. Okay, let's be honest, for the next 30 years. But, it's craziness. Anyway, you don't need to hear about that, do you? What else is going on? I think that's really all. That's sad, but like that's kind of taken up a lot of headspace for a while. But let's get into knitting and spinning. Are you working on the It's Alive along? Also, we're calling it Knits from the Crypts. It's where we take something that is a finished object that's been languishing. It's not getting worn. So what do we need to do with it? Do we need to like reinsert a zipper? Do we need to redo a button band? Do we need to make it longer? Do we need to make it shorter? Is it just like blech? Do we need to add some like wool tattooing? By the way, that's like the best thing ever. I need to do that soon. Just embroidering on your sweaters, but I love that it's called wool tattoo. That makes me so happy. So anyway, it's just finding those projects that, again, you've put all the time and effort in, and you were very committed to at some point, but now they're just sitting in a basket or someplace. They're just like all sad and alone in the corner. You need to give them life again. So, here are some that I've been working on. For one thing, this one is not old at all. Is it my Bentley cardigan? Is that what it is? I think it's the Bentley cardigan. Anyway, I just finished it. Was it right before Rhinebeck that I finished it? But to be honest with you, I was like, I tried it on and like I love the look of it, but then I tried it on and it was just like, I was not super jazzed about it. And I couldn't figure out what it was, but in between then and something later, it is the Bentley cardigan. It's the Bentley cardigan, which is a pattern by Marie Green. Between the time that I finished it and something else, something had come up where we were talking about button bands, or I think maybe it was the zipper. Maybe it was when we were doing the zipper talking. Where I was talking about the zipper being too long and it makes your cardigan flare out. Well, I think that was the reason I was unhappy with my Bentley cardigan. It doesn't have a zipper, but it had a button band. And the pattern, and I'm sure it's just a gauge issue, but the pattern actually had suggested that you pick up 9 for 10 for the button band, which is unusual, to say the least. So I picked up, I think, 4 for 5. And even at that rate, I didn't really realize it when I tried it on until I talked about the zipper thing. And then when I looked at it, I was like, that's why I'm not liking it. It's because that button band is giving it that bowed look in the front. And so while it's not warbly like a zipper that's too long, it's still giving me that slightly bowed look. And so it's, again, this is kind of like it's just not that kind of cardigan that looks good with that tier, I don't know what that shape's called. So I took out my button band and I picked it up at 3 for 4, which is, again, your standard button band pickup. And now I am much happier with it. It looks more like the boxy-ish kind of look that it is, or that I had in mind for it. And so I am much more pleased. Yay! So I actually ended up losing 2 buttons worth of button band. So that tells you how much, I lost that much button. So, I mean, that's a good 2 inches of button band that came off. And so you can imagine that it made that front kind of bow down. So, yay that. It's very exciting. So, I'm excited about that. At first I thought maybe I wasn't happy with it because the sleeves, I typically, I'm a fan of a short sleeve sweater. But generally I make my sleeves have less positive ease. And this sweater definitely has a good amount of positive ease in the sleeve for me. So I thought I thought maybe that's why I wasn't loving it. But now that I fixed the button band, I actually don't mind that at all. And it has a nice kind of relaxed look for layering, which I'm enjoying. So yay that, and it's from the Crypt. Okay. And then, after that, this is the project I had originally talked about doing, which is the Capiro, I want to say. That's not right, but it's something with a C, I believe. Carapino, that's what it is. The Carapino sweater, which is a Brooklyn tweed pattern. And it is by Carol Feller. Now, it is a 3/4 sleeve, I believe. And it has this kind of mesh front. And it's a pullover, as written. I decided that I would like it to be short-sleeved. Because, as I mentioned, I do enjoy a short-sleeve sweater. But I was not super happy with it. Like, I just wasn't, I actually had never worn it. I loved the way it looked not on my body. But on my body, I was not in love with how it looked. And I couldn't really tell why. And I thought, well, maybe it's because I just don't like this mesh look pulled over my torso. I don't know. But I think also it had slightly less positive ease than it should have. I think maybe it had a very small amount of positive ease so that it, while it didn't in my brain looked snug, because it, again, it wasn't like it was tight or it was stretching out the knitting, but I just don't think it had the right look for what the pattern was originally intended to look like, or again, what I had envisioned it to look like. So I decided that what I would do is make it a cardigan. So I steeked this meshy thing. Can you see it? Let me let you see it closer. See if that helps. So, the lights are making it really so the because of the mesh, it does have, oh, here we go, that's better. It has this, I'm not holding it exactly perfectly horizontal or vertical. See this? This essentially is a one stockinette row that does go the whole vertical length of the pattern. So I was hesitant to steek what is essentially a lace and that it has yarn overs. But I felt like because it had that one knit stitch that was continuous in a continuous vertical column, that maybe I could get away with picking up from that. And it totally worked. Well, at least I feel like it worked. So what I did is I just took my sewing machine and I found what was essentially the central vertical column of that stockinette, and I skipped the yarn over the lacy bit, and then I sewed on either side of that, on either side of it, the vertical column. So I just sewed up and just once, and it was fine. And then I cut right up the middle. What I ended up doing is actually cutting more adjacent to that vertical column, because I was originally thinking I would just cut the, let me back that up. I originally thought what I would do is cut the center vertical column of stockinette. But what happened is, because it had the lace on either side, it just looked like it was unraveling. So what I did was, if I had a column of knits here that I had sewn through, I just cut right adjacent to that, just right next to it, so that I didn't have that kind of warbly, looking like it was fraying because of that yarn over in there. And it seems to have worked quite well. And it doesn't feel like I've kind of like messed with it, pulled on it. It doesn't feel like it's going to have any issues with fraying. So I did that, and then I picked up along the next vertical column. So I just have a very small fringy bit here, and what I'll do is just tack that down when I'm all the way done. So I made a button band, and on both sides, I totally forgot, because I was just excited about getting it done. I totally forgot to put buttonholes in the traditional women's side, so they're on the men's side, which is ridiculous anyway, but whatever. So that doesn't bother me, but I thought I would mention it, that I do know that it's supposed to be the other way, but it wasn't that important. I was already almost done with the plain side, and I thought, I'm not ripping it back to put buttonholes in it. So I put buttonholes in it, and then I've got some 1-inch I need to get some 1-inch buttons to work with. Usually I like to have my button picked out before I do my button band, but I did kind of want to get this on the road. And I really was kind of waffling about whether or not I wanted to do just like a closure, or like, well, that's still a closure, like on the Good Ale by Cecily Glowick McDonald. Is that right? I made that up, but maybe not. She has just like, it's a button on either side with an I-cord loop that closes your sweater. So I was really kind of like about which one of those things I want to do, but I decided to go with the traditional button band. I felt like it was more versatile overall. So I did that, and then another thing I did, or am doing, is that I did not like how the sleeve felt a little snug, and I think it's because my bind off was a little too firm. Because it fit, but it felt like it didn't have any give, because again, my bind off is pretty firm. I don't know why that was, but so I've decided to go ahead and go with the bottom and the button band have a twisted 1x1. So I decided to rip out the bind off on the sleeve caps, and I'm just gonna put like 1.5 inches ish of the 1x1 there, just to help with that sleeve feeling too firm, too snug. So yeah. I know people are like, but the 1x1 rib is gonna make it snugger. But again, the point was that the bind off was the issue. So essentially I could have just redone the bind off, but I thought now that I have a button band and a hem in the 1x1, I thought, well, for continuity, it might look nice to have the sleeve have that as well. Whoa, this is a lot of me talking. So there's that. I'm still working on that. And then I have one more knit from the Crypts. I caught up. I wasn't even thinking about this one. I made this sweater for my husband. It is Beaver Slide Dry Goods in their, I think it's actually their 3-ply. So it's like a heavy Aran, I think. I just found a weird, whatever. Anyway, I think this is pre-podcast. So I think this is about 8 years old. Actually might even be older than my daughter. No, that's crazy talk. I don't think that's right. But anyway, it's older. And he really has not gotten a lot of wear out of it. I made it in a 3x3 rib, and I think it has always fit a little bit closer than he would like. So while it still had positive ease. Maybe not. Well, I still think it had positive ease. But I just feel like he is used to having things be baggier because he is a slim guy, and because he's so tall, lots of times it works out that he's wearing bigger clothes than he really needs to, and I think it just felt too constrictive. So I think especially in the sleeve, I think that was the main issue. And you can see, like, it would actually have to have some stretchish. Neither here nor there. He's never worn it. I think maybe he's worn it 3 or 4 times. So I was actually getting ready to just frog it and then just reclaim the yarn for something else. But then I thought, you know what? I think my daughter actually could wear this, and it looks darling on her. So to make it better for her, I actually took out the zipper and reinserted the zipper. It did have some slight warbling. This zipper was a little bit too long. In fact, I trimmed off about 1 inch of the zipper. And so I reinserted that so that because again, this is a long time ago. It wasn't as, I think this might be one of the first things I'd put a zipper in. I'm not sure, but I would guess. So I took out the zipper and I repinned it back in, had her try it on to make sure it looked okay. And then I sewed it in on the machine because boy, oh boy, so much easier. I know some of you don't feel comfortable with a sewing machine and doing your knits, but boy, it is so much faster. Like infinitely faster. than any other method. And it's, you know, very strong and sturdy. Oh, I have neat threads to trim. So anyway, so I reinserted the zipper on that. And then another thing I did was the collar had been made. I was obviously drunk because it was totally asymmetrical. I had used short rows and I thought it was very fancy because I was new to short rows at that time. I had used short rows to make the collar like kind of fold down a little bit in the back. Does that make sense? It doesn't really make sense, does it? So instead of it being like a mock turtleneck where it's just like a straight edge around the side, I had made it kind of come up further here. So it looked like a dinosaur frill. But what it allowed it to do was flip down enough so that it wasn't just standing up and it would keep your neck warm. But she did not like it, and it was asymmetrical. It's hilarious. I did not know that it was asymmetrical at all until she was like, why is this weird? And I was like, oh, aren't you fancy, preteen? So I ripped that out and just made it a straight collar. So now she's going to wear that. And it's just so funny. Because she's trying it on and she's like, oh, I didn't know a sweater could be so flattering. See, this is what I'm talking about. 6 months ago, this child would have not even, I don't even know what she knew what the word flattering was. Suddenly things are flattering and I'm just like, wait, what? So anyway, who knew a sweater could be so flattering? So that's another knit from the Crypt that is finished. I might do a thumb hole in it for her. It does come down quite a bit on her hand, but I haven't decided completely yet. That'll be a trick because it is knit from the bottom up. I won't be able to just rip. If I was knit from the top down, I would just rip the cuff out and redo it and there'd be no big deal. But with it being from the top down, I would have to actually cut the cuff off and do it, or do like a buttonhole for the thumb hole. So I haven't decided yet what to do. We'll see. Okay. Oh, one thing I will say that I enjoyed quite a lot. I have one of those little steamers that actually what happened is at SSK this year. Jillian Marino, that's not her name. I am literally the worst. I mean, like, my husband is constantly like, oh, that's that so-and-so from so-and-so show. Actually, he just says their name. And I'm like, it is Jillian Marino. Okay. Marino. Anyway, fancy pants SSK teacher had a steamer there for us to steam our singles so they could see immediately. And it was so awesome because it immediately takes like the kink out of your singles when you're spinning. It essentially finishes it for you. So I thought, oh, I got one of those. And I had just ripped out all of that for the collar. And so it was all the kinky mess. And I did not have any of that. I mean, who knows if I have any of that yarn somewhere. I doubt it. So I was like, ugh. And I knew I was going to have to knit like a few rows and then bind off. And I was like, I don't want to knit with this kinky thing. It's crazy. So I just used a little mini nitty knotty to skein it up into a little circle skein. I mean, you could just use your arm. But I was fancy in using my tools that I have. But you could just use your arm. So I skeined it up and then just set the steamer on the dining room table and just ran the little tiny skein over the steamer, and it bumped out all of the kinks from it being in the knitted wear. So I didn't have to like wash it and let it dry because, you know, when you're taking something apart to fix it, you're like, you've got the momentum. Like, don't break the momentum, right? It's a thing. It's legit. So that worked really well. See, it's like, you know, that was like not the point of the class at all. The class was not about steaming your singles, but like those little ancillary bits of information are like the best reason to take a class. Even if it's something that you feel like you kind of are familiar with, all of those little bits and bobs that are peripheral to the actual class itself usually end up making the class worth the price of admission. Anyway, what time is it? It's 9:23. Okay. I have to leave in 17 minutes. Well, I have to get ready to leave in 17 minutes. Okay, so let's talk about knitting and spinning. Oh, I'll talk about this. This is another kind of like adjacent thing that I did this week. Actually, just did it last night. So I have this beautiful yarn that was given to me when somebody went to Scotland. And so this skein was just a natural white. And I had been wanting to do something with the two of them together. But I'll be honest with you, white kind of scares. I mean, it wasn't like it was like a warm white. It wasn't like a blue white. It was a natural, like, ecru. It wasn't a bleached white. But I was just like, it's so white. And it kind of like, I'm like, it's too contrasty. But I wanted to use this yarn so badly because it's like from one of the oldest mills in Scotland, which is so cool. And somebody brought it to me, which is amazing. But I was just like, and I wanted to use them together because they're both from a Scotland trip. And I was like, So I decided to tea dye this last night. So I just took, I actually have, like, I did dye professionally for a while, if you're newer to the podcast. So I have all of, like, the actual dyeing equipment, but it's one skein. So I didn't want to, like, go dig out all of the, like, acid, like, because the acid dyes have heavy metals in them, so you can't cook in the same pots you dye in. So I didn't want to go, like, find all the dedicated dye pots. So I thought, and I just wanted to bump down the whiteness a little bit so that I could use them in color work and there'd be slightly less contrast. So what I did is just dyed it with tea. I wasn't sure if you could do that with wool. I knew you could do it with cotton. But as long as you add vinegar, you can totally use tea to dye your wool. So this is 2 bags of Lipton and a bag of lemon ginger zinger. I just did that in for extras. See what would happen. So you just add like 1 part vinegar to 3 parts water, or you can use citric acid, whatever. You're just trying to make it an acidic environment. And then you basically just you make a strong tea in that proportion of vinegar to water, and you just put your yarn in there. You can pre-soak it, but I didn't. Just put it in the pot with my tea, and then I brought the pot up to about 180. And then I just put the lid on it and let it sit till it came to room temperature. And then I rinsed it out. So yeah, now I feel much more comfortable using them together. I know it's silly, right? But I don't know that I would necessarily use like a tea dye in something that's going to get washed a lot, like socks or something. But certainly a cowl, I mean, you wash your cows like what, once a year? I don't wash mine that often. But so I'm excited about that. Yay! Okay, so then I have finished spinning. I finished my fancy squid fiber. What? Classy squid. Why do I just want to say fancy squid? It's classy squid. I finished my classy squid Shetland fiber in the Leaf Fall colorway. I had 8 ounces. So I just did a regular old 2-ply, but isn't it beautiful? Right? So gorgeous. And the Shetland was so fun to spin with. I get it. Shetland is not as soft as Merino or Polworth or Falkland but boy, is it a pleasant spin. If you're a new spinner, Shetland, Romney, they just have enough tooth. They're so, for me anyway, they're much easier to spin. It might just be my spinning style because I tend to spin a bit woolly rather than worsted. So maybe it's just me, but whew, so pleasant to work with, right? So it's gorgeous. All there is to it. So there's that. And what did I get? About 550-ish yards out of 8 ounces. So it's like a DK-ish, sportish. It's in that neighborhood. Okay, so then what I am currently spinning, I finished a bobbin of Three Waters Farm in their Mixed BFL Walk in the Mist colorway. And so it's definitely bluish grays and browns. Stop focusing on me, camera. Oh, she loves me so much. But anyway, so there's that. And then what I think I'm going to do is ply it with, this is Nest Thin in Something Wicked. So I think they're going to look great together. This one has much more blue in it, but it's still kind of a similar temperature to this gray. So I think they're going to look really beautiful next to each other. see that. Like a warm blue and a warm gray, you know what I mean? Not an icy or tealier kind of color. We'll see, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna look gorgeous. Okay, so then what else do I have to show you? Oh my gosh, now finished objects. Right. So knitting, you saw before. Are you ready for it? So this is Stephen West's Brio Garter Rib Hat. You can wear it like that if you're as fancy as Mr. West. If you're not as fancy as Mr. West, I don't think he's ever worn it like that. You can either tuck it down so that you have like a more slouchy style, or you can flip the little ear flappy bits up so that if it's like mega cold, you can have a double layer on your ears. And it's a double layer of Aran weight brioche, which is basically a 4-layer of Aran weight, which is insanely warm. So how cute is that? Mine I did with a skein of hand spun and as the main color, which I think is from Spun Right Round. I'm pretty confident. And then the background color is Cascade 220. No, it's Cascade Eco Wool. In a gray. And it's crazy because of the way the increases and decreases go, so that you get this like very exciting like war helmet shape. Because of that, you get crazy if you have any sort of color changes that are longer in your yarn. You get this crazy mimic of that shape. Just bonkers. So I actually rather like it in this format. Because the other thing is, if you wear specs, it helps to have the ear flap go down because they're not constantly pushing your glasses down. It's pretty cute, right? And it's brioche, so it's super fun to make. Okay. Ridiculous and pretty fun. So you could certainly make it shorter if you wanted to. The decreases start here. So I think you actually do 9 inches of this garter section before you start your decreases. So it's very easy if you wanted to have it just, like if you wanted it to fit like this but not have the slouchy bit in the back. Like if you just wanted it to fit like a traditional hat, you could very easily just, you know, take off a couple inches. Well, maybe like, yeah, basically a couple inches of the main body of the hat, and you could have a shorter trimmer ski cap ear style. But it's pretty cute, right? Of course it is. Then also, I finished a pair of socks. These are DK weight. They are, I forgot the band. This is Viking of Norway's Aurora Super Sock. So I don't know exactly what color it is, I apologize. But I believe I purchased this at Webb's, if I'm not mistaken. So they're DK weight, so they're super awesomely fast, even though they're not, because I told you Cassie's on at Rhinebeck, but whatever, they were sitting without heels for quite some time. So I actually need to go back. Can you see it right there? Yeah. I need to go back. I just realized there's quite a large hole that I need to cover up. Usually I don't get those, but every once in a while. But so aren't those cute? Nice, right? Ta-da! Okay, and so then my last finished object is something you've never even seen before. So, Tin Can Knits, I think recently released the Twisp hat. TWISP. It's a pay-for pattern. And like all of their patterns, it comes in, a majillion sizes. It comes in, let's see. I'm just a big liar who lies. It comes in baby, toddler, child, adult small, and adult large. So it comes in 16 to 23 inch sizes. and it is knit with a fingering or a sport weight yarn. The samples they have were shown in Quince & Company's Chickadee, and so that's what I knit mine in as well. And I finished it. Crazy! So this is Quince & Company Chickadee. The green is Marsh, the blue is Peacoat, and the limey bit is Bosque. How fun is that? So you can wear it either as a slouchy hat, which is generally my favorite, or you can wear it with the brim folded up. Again, the double brim will keep your ears a bit warmer, and you can actually see the Fair Isle patterning versus the other one was. Now, the pattern is not written for this green stripe in the middle. It is just written for that navy to continue all the way through. But I saw someone's pattern page where she had made it with that little stripe in the middle, and I thought it was super cute. So I totally copied her, because I'm a copier who copies. And I saved her picture so I can remember. Miss Sarah B's. So Miss Sarah B, she did hers with a stripe in the middle of the ribbing. And I thought it looked precious. And the fun thing is, like, it gives you this little extra pop right at the bottom. And it didn't, oh my gosh, I switched knitting. What's going on? I didn't knit anything I was supposed to this week, these last 2 weeks, just things I wanted to knit. So I have a lot, as you can imagine, of the Bosque. And then about maybe half of a ball left. Again, these are 50 gram skeins. Half of a ball maybe of the Peacoat, and then maybe a third of a skein left of the Marsh. So you could definitely make another hat if you just switch up the main color. No problem. And then the other thing I wanted to mention that I enjoyed about this is that for the first time I tried ChowGoo's interchangeables, the 4-inch tip with the 8-inch cord. Loved it. I've been wanting to get, sometimes I don't like to knit on 16-inch circs because they can fatigue my hand a bit. But I do really like them for hats. Let's admit it. Like, they just make things go much faster. So I've been thinking, like, I want to just buy a set of 16-inch circs, but I just haven't seen one that I was really that drawn to. But ChowGoo 4-inch tips with an 8-inch cord, and they do sell them in sets, so I might go see if my LYS has that and then give that to myself for Christmas. Or for Tuesday. That's right. So I really enjoyed them quite a lot. And again, I love my ChowGoos, my red interchangeable lace ones. They're my favorite needles by far. And so I'm really digging these. So yay that. I knit mine on 2s for the brim. I have it on my head. I'm looking for it. 2s for the brims and 3s for the body. And it has and I knit the larger size because I have a giant head. And I don't like my hats to be tight. So I dig it. Yay. And then I cast on a handbrake cowl, and the handbrake is by the Bakery Bears folks. It is by Kay and Dan Jones. I believe it's by Dan specifically. But it's called the handbrake cowl, and it's just a basic 1 skein worsted weight, shorter length cowl. But Froggy Monkey gave me one. Actually, Froggy Monkey and DJ Knits a Lot gave me one at Rhinebeck a few years ago, and I really enjoy it. So I decided to make another one. And I had this skein of yarn whose tag is totally not here. But it's from Twig and the Thorn. It's a worsted weight yarn that's Cormo. And so I thought I would try that. And I forgot Twig and Thorn is actually by Quince & Company. So when I got it in the mail, it said Quince Company. I was like, what is happening? Oh, that's right. So I got this, and so I've just started it, but I thought it would be a good yarn to try out, or a good pattern to try out this yarn with. It definitely has a looser ply structure than your traditional quins, but so far I'm enjoying it quite a bit. So it's very soft, it's Cormo, but it is slightly more rustic in terms, it does have a little veg matter in it, but I like it quite a lot. So I just started, so it's a little bit. I think that's all. Oh my gosh, right. So much of me talking. It's out of control. All right, well, I think that's it. And I'll talk next time. Bye. Hey, I totally forgot to say Happy Thanksgiving. So, Happy Thanksgiving! Happy giving of thanks. Bye.